Steam is finally dropping the hammer. This is legendary drops and his view on something Steam does. I have no idea. Let's watch it.
Steam is about to make a whole lot of people mad, and I'm going to tell you right now, it definitely is not the players. In an effort to make Steam a more transparent ecosystem, they are going to be taking recommended hardware out of the hands of developers and publishers, and instead, well, they're going to show us exactly what games are actually running on, what performance really looks like for these games based on our experience. No more lying, no more hiding, no more gaslighting. Everyone will be exposed.
Okay.
This is going to be such a massive change. This is going to be such a huge help to players. It is going to instantly impact what games players buy, when players buy these games, and it is going to piss off a lot of these publishers that have been selling us unfinished garbage for years. So, like most of them. But this entire thing is just another step. It's just another action that Valve has taken to be able to make their platform that much more transparent, which got me thinking, what are they up to? Because with what they're doing now and other things...
What Steam is up to? What Steam is up to? What they've been doing for years? Consumers first. Customers first. Gamers first. Developers second. Publishers third. And they're on it. They're doing it great. So far, at least, I'm happy. They have great sales. They have about 2 to 3 sales a month.
That have happened in the background, years of these guys working on their own hardware and their own games and their own platform. Well, I think these guys are building towards something much bigger, something that I do not think a lot of people are ready for. Standardized level of quality in the games industry, setting expectations permanently. No more questions need to be asked. So today, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about Steam's latest changes, how they're going to impact the games industry at a rate that, honestly, I don't think we've ever even seen before, how Valve is trying to standardize quality in the games industry, and how all of this has already happened. But before that, a word from today's sponsor, boot.dev, which I've been back on their website recently, and one of the things that I noticed when I've been checking it out is that it feels a lot more like practicing than actually studying. Like you're actually learning something on the job. You're not just sitting there watching these lessons just stack up passively. No, you're...
Look at this. Path of Exile. That's badass.
Constantly doing something. You're coding, you're fixing code, you're always interacting with the platform in some kind of way.
I think he knows
like
what platform.
Making some kind of progress. And
yeah.
I think that's a big difference between them and anybody else. They structure this all like an...
Yeah, this one. He's talked about this before. Is it actually working as he says it is? Do you learn to code? Is it a good way to learn code?
RPG, XP, levels, quests, which sounds like a gimmick, but it's there to give you momentum. You always feel like you're making progress instead of just consuming content. And when you get stuck, which you eventually will, you have Boots, the AI tutor, that's not there just to hand you the answer and move on. It's nudging you in the right direction so that you can actually figure things out on your own, and don't forget it 5 minutes later. They also have added the training grounds, which is basically an area for you to be able to grind challenges until something clicks. Now, all of these lessons are free to read and watch. You can demo all their interactive features too. Paid just unlocks the full hands-on experience, the coding, AI help, and progress tracking.
Okay.
And the reason why I think this kind of stuff matters is because these are back-end skills that can actually translate into real job-level skills, the kind of things that can land you a role where you're making 6 figures a year, and oftentimes you're working remote. So if you're interested in checking this out, maybe you want to make your own game, go to boot.dev and use code LegendaryDrops for 25%.
It sounds a little too good to be true, but if it like this would definitely get me to stop making a video game if this is like a game, you know?
Off your first entire year on an annual plan. The link, QR, and code are all on screen, and it's in the description and the pinned comment. Thank you to boot.dev for sponsoring today's video. Valve is arguably the most powerful company in PC gaming, hell, in all of gaming, and instead of using that position to be able to push some of the worst habits in the industry, they have...
Team Fortress 2. Did you play it? I played it. Not for that long, but it was fun and goofy when it came out. I know like a lot of people did play it.
Become more successful than their competition by largely doing the opposite. Steam is a monopoly by choice. Players choose it, developers choose it, not because they're forced to, not because they don't have any other options, but because it is the best platform. It has the big...
So true. So true. Steam, fucking, they went up. It's not even been an uphill battle. It's just, they've just grown to greatness. Gabe?
see exist anywhere else. And that's why I think that of conveniences and consumer platform, it has the biggest audience, the most useful tools, with the kind of conveniences and consumer protections that we just don't see exist anywhere else. And that's why I think that Steam means a lot more to people than just being a storefront. For a lot of players, it represents one of the last major platforms in gaming that still feels like it's being built by people who still actually love games.
Yes.
Not just as products or quarterly revenue, but as a hobby that's worth protecting. The games, the people who make them, and the people who play them. And lately, it feels like Valve doesn't just want to be the better example anymore. They want to set a standard. When we look at what Valve has done over the past couple of years, I think that there is a really clear pattern here. They just keep finding places in the industry where they are benefiting from confusion or vagueness or flat out dishonesty, and then Steam is turning that into a rule. They're making a warning. They're putting in a disclosure, something that is there to protect their customers. Steam seems to always move in a much larger effort to keep Steam healthier, clearer, and a hell of a lot harder to exploit. Steam is basically the one that set the
And they don't even make games. Barely. Like, they make this one. They have Counter-Strike. But, you know, they're not pushing out content, DLCs, skins, you know, apart from, of course, Counter-Strike. But that's a whole different conversation. But the way they run Steam is just incredible. And the prices, the sales are incredible. I mean, if you look at digital PC games and console PC games, prices, you can't even compare them. Fucking a PlayStation Store is sometimes a lot more expensive than physical. I mean, what the hell? I think, why not just have them at the same price? Or at least have better sales? What the fuck?
Standard for refunds in PC gaming. You have 14 days
Because
and 2 hours.
I mean, I would like to play my PlayStation more. There's some games that just, you know what? I want to buy this for PlayStation, but it's cheaper on PC. What the fuck are you doing, Sony? I mean, I got five dual senses. And I mostly use my dual sense on PC. I mean, if you think consumers first, yeah, we're gonna play in your console. But if you just kick us out and just think, no, you'll buy a PlayStation, you'll buy a PlayStation game no matter what, and that is not true. I mean, come on!
Played. I can't tell you guys how many times this has saved me. Maybe the game just didn't launch. Maybe the recommended specs were a fantasy and the game just runs like shit. Or maybe there was just no demo, so I just tried it and realized, yeah, you know what? This just isn't for me. Refunds are always fast, sometimes immediate in most cases.
Yes.
Even if you go past that 2-hour mark, there's been plenty of times that if you give them a legitimate reason, Steam will just at least hear you out. Compare that to console platforms or any other platform outside of maybe GOG, where refunds rarely even happen, and when they do, it feels like you're trying to plead your case to a brick wall. It's not even comparable. And that same mentality shows up all over.
And think about it, GOG is supposed to be, hey, come here for great games. And then you try to refund, and they're just, no. You came here for great games, not great working games.
Steam, Valve bans crypto and NFTs. They require disclosures for generative AI, especially if that content is being generated during live gameplay. They have an outright ban on in-game advertising, which I'm going to keep it straight with you guys. That might actually be the only real barrier that's in place to keep publishers from jamming ads directly into our games. Because, like, come on. We know that they want to. I was watching the Diablo 4 campfire chat for their latest expansion, and in the middle of it, Blizzard kept advertising a Diablo 4 themed Jackson guitar, Diablo 4 branded candy, Diablo 4 branded Fanta, and whatever else these guys could fit in. That's out.
Think about it. You sit there, play Diablo, and then fucking Fanta pops up. Crimson Cherry! Buy it now. On Target. Oh, come on.
Outside of the game. This is the version that these guys can get away with right now. They can't do that on their own platform because they most likely cannot magically get away with it on Steam. So, well, they just don't do it because it's just too damn obvious. Steam's rule is keeping these guys in line right now. And in 2024, Valve went after another thing that players have been burned by for years now. Promised content, DLC, expansion, season passes, all of the stuff that publishers absolutely love to sell to us before it actually exists. Well, Steam now requires those developers to describe that content, provide a release window, and stick to it. And if they can't deliver, well, then they have to communicate with Valve or issue refunds. And if they don't, well, then Steam's going to step in and they're going to handle it themselves.
Oh! I didn't know. That is fucking wonderful. That's why it's so easy to get a refund when a game doesn't deliver on the developer's promise. Oh, this is great. W Steam.
A massive precedent. Publishers got way too comfortable taking our money up front, dangling future content in front of players.
And that was just 2 years ago.
And then quietly dropping support for that game once it underperformed, or the roadmap just became a little bit too inconvenient for everything else that they were doing. Steam basically said, no, if you're going to sell a promise on this platform, that is a promise that has to mean something. That is a promise you have to keep.
Fuck yeah.
But apparently, that's not the only promise that Steam wants publishers to keep. One of the biggest issues that players face today, if not the biggest issue that we face today, is performance. It doesn't matter what publisher, what game, what price, or what hardware you're using, you're eventually going to be running into this. And at this point, I think players are just kind of trained to expect a lie. A publisher is going to tell us that this game is optimized for a 3060 and above, and then we're going to immediately find out that it can barely even hold together on a...
Don't tell me this is Microsoft Flight Simulator or whatever it's called. To be honest, that's because Sony takes 39% cut on every sale. So, hey, you can't blame Sony for increasing prices. That's the publisher's fault. Ah, so because Sony takes 39% cut, publishers are upping the prices because Sony takes, a 39% cut? Woo! I meant 30. But fucking that. So does Steam! Steam takes 30% too, so it's the same price. So fuck yeah, it's Sony. I blame Sony. Steam takes 30% too. No. They don't up their prices there. No, I blame Sony. That has to be Sony.
4080. And this is not just a PC problem. I realize I have some console viewers that are out there. These guys still tell you, oh, this game's going to run at 60, and it definitely doesn't. Performance issues have just become so common across the entire industry that even with high-profile releases, players are just bracing themselves for the excuses before the game's even launched.
Fuck, did Monster Hunter, did that run this bad at launch? I know that was a lot of shit, but I played a demo. That worked. But it went straight to hell. How's the game working now, though?
When Starfield launched with massive performance complaints, Todd Howard told players that they need to upgrade their PC. When Borderlands 4 launched with some of the worst performance issues that we had seen in years, Randy Pitchford told players that they were trying to use hardware that was just too old for the game. He said,
I remember. I mean, what the fuck? That's why you have low, medium, high, and a bunch of other settings on PC. Also, didn't this work better on console? I mean, what the fuck? Even people with high-end had problems. I mean, come on. Bitchfoot, we talked about this before. Bitchfoot shouldn't fucking get into the media when a game is about to release or after release because he is destroying sales with his quotes, arguments, and shit takes.
That PC players must face the reality of the relationship between their hardware and the software that they run. Like, half these guys didn't build their own machines. And he compared it to driving a monster truck with a leaf blower's motor. Basically, it's not the game, it's us. Something that just completely...
And then you have operators which run on a 10-year-old computer. I mean, hey... Didn't Borderlands use Unreal Engine? Default values, everybody. Default values. Yeah, blame them all you want, but at the end of the day, we can't do shit about it. Soon games will cost over 100% dollars. Over 100% dollars. You mean $100, right? Like, don't say no. Soon, I hope not. But they'll probably cost like at least 80. But then they should at least make them optimized. At least optimize your games if you're going to sell them for 80. Inflation is a core issue. Yes, but when you release broken games, people are going to be mad. Something is going to happen there too. And I think Steam is going to be one of the giants that's going to help us consumers.
He denies all reality to our frustration, and as much as we are sick of it, well, it seems like Valve might be preparing to end that argument entirely. Back on April 4th of 2026, TechSpot reported on a new feature Valve is working on, a feature that could estimate game performance in FPS based on real user data. The article read, Valve appears to be preparing a new feature that could make one of PC gaming's biggest uncertainties, performance, more transparent. Newly uncovered code in the Steam client suggests that players may soon see estimated frame rate data for each game derived from real-world gameplay metrics shared by other users.
That is awesome. There you go. Steam optimization. That is great. Then they have to start optimizing their games. On my PC, Borderlands 4 runs pretty well. Yeah, and then you have people like with problems. So it's just the uncertainty with Unreal Engine 5 when you don't optimize your game.
The feature would represent a significant step towards bridging the gap between official system requirements and actual in-game performance. Even as studios release recommended hardware specs, the experience on diverse PC setups often differs sharply from expectations. Now, the timing really matters here because this is coming after Steam has already started to move in this direction. Back in February of 2026, Valve began allowing users to include their hardware specifications in their Steam reviews. So this doesn't feel like some random feature that people are stumbling onto. It actually feels like a step forward towards a much larger system where Steam can take hardware and performance data compared across real users and then show players a much more honest picture of how these games actually run. And if that happens, oh boy, well, recommended specs are going to be a hell of a lot less useful for marketing fluff, I'll tell you that right now, because who cares what any of these publishers have to say if I can go on Steam and I can see exactly how that is running for people with similar hardware to mine. This is such
just a huge W.
A massive shift. We actually have a platform that's out here collecting user data and using it for something that is actually useful or benefits the customer. Now, mind you, this is all optional. You don't have to opt into any of this if you don't want to. But they're not using your information to shove more ads in your face. They're not trying to sell your information to some third-party companies so you
like
get an inbox filled with junk mail or a bunch of scam calls from some guy pretending to be your bank. No, this is them using your data to be able to protect your purchases, hold publishers accountable, and make buying a game feel like a hell of a lot less of a gamble. Honestly, I'm kind of shocked that nothing like this has ever existed already. I mean, I guess I'm not all that shocked because these guys really do like to scam us, but man, this is just so obviously useful. Instead of getting gaslit by these vague specs and cherry-picked footage that were constantly shown, players can now see at first glance how this game is performing for everybody else. You can see whether or not this game is going to be up to par for the hardware that you have before you even spend the money.
But that is fucking useful because a lot of people also, it goes the other way. When people say, this game runs shit on my PC. Damn. And then they have their specs pinned. And you see that this guy is lying. Also, you can opt in or not. But I mean, still, if they opt in to show the specs and they say it runs like shit, and you can clearly see the line, that's also a good thing. Because you can see that they clearly just lying their ass off just to hate on the game.
And now for developers, I've talked to a few of them. These guys are cheering this on, especially indie developers, because this doesn't just help the customers, it can save these smaller teams a ridiculous amount of money. Not every single studio can afford to have a third-party QA going across a mountain of different hardware configurations. Not every team can fill an office with a bunch of test machines just to get a partial idea of how that game is going to perform. But if Steam can surface real-world performance data from actual players, well, that gives these developers a hell of a lot clearer of a picture too. And for Valve, man, this is just smart. That's all I have to say. They don't publish their numbers, but I would have to imagine that a massive amount of Steam refunds likely come from games just not performing the way that players probably expected. That game didn't run right, the specs were misleading, the player then spends an hour trying to fix it, and they finally just refund it. So a tool like this is going to help everyone. Players, because we're going to be able to make better buying decisions. Developers, because they're going to get performance feedback. And Steam...
There's got to be something. Maybe this won't help the developers, but something's got to help on the optimization. I mean, that's got to stop. That games doesn't run well when they release. And then you had a bad side of it now. Like a GTA 6 developer is coming out and say that the crunch is really bad. Rockstar Games is now expecting them to, 5 to 6 months work to do that in 3 months. There was one guy who sat there until 3 a.m. That got to stop too, but they have to get to that November release because, you know, investors and all that, and the hype, expectations. I don't know. I feel like maybe the game got announced maybe a little too early. You know, like I've said before, if you're gonna announce a game, be pretty sure you're gonna release it. Announce it 3 months before it comes out. And when you announce it with a cinematic and then some gameplay. And then you have 3 to 6 months until it comes out. But fucking hell, to announce it like 6 years before it comes out? No. What's the point?
Because they're going to reduce a pretty sizable chunk of their own refund queue by preventing all these bad purchases before they even happen. Man, I really hope that people understand just how massive of a change this is going to be. It is going to be a huge disruption to the games industry. It is going to instantaneously impact the way that these companies approach recommended hardware, how they approach performance and optimization. When you have something that is this transparent, that is likely going to be just plastered right on the store page, you don't have an option. You have to optimize that game. Otherwise, you're going to launch it with a scarlet letter before players even press buy. If I'm Xbox or PlayStation and I was thinking about going exclusive, I'm definitely thinking about doing it now, that's for sure. No more guesswork. You're going to know exactly what you're buying. And also, as a buyer,
but will Xbox start developing, if they make an exclusive title for Xbox, will it then also be available on PC? I mean, they got it, right?
Byproduct, we're going to know immediately who the real problem is. And with the long history that a lot of these companies have of pushing out games well before they were actually finished, it's going to be these publishers. You know, for years now, these guys have been trying to push prices higher and higher, always trying to standardize a level of pricing that they want to be able to make, always expecting more from us without ever wanting any expectations on themselves. And in that time, these guys have never standardized the level of quality. Not a single time. No more.
Fuck yeah.
Now, these games have to come out complete or they have to come out truthful. Which is it going to be? Can't imagine they're going to like either one. I can't tell you guys how ecstatic I am over this. This is one of the greatest changes that I have ever seen in the games industry in many, many years. And it's something that nobody can fight. It's just good for the players.
And hopefully it's just a small step for better gaming.
It's good for the games. It's good for developers. It's good for the industry.
And hopefully less lying and less toxicity.
It's healthy overall. The only people it's not healthy for are the people that are trying to scam people. That's it. Valve isn't standardizing the games industry by trying to ask these companies and these publishers to be better. No, instead, they're just making excuses impossible to sell. I love it. It's beautiful business. And while I really appreciate what Valve is doing and what they're trying to push towards right now, the real question is, what are they up to? If there's one thing that I pride myself on, is that I don't take anything at face value. So when I see Valve making moves like this, I don't look at it as some random quality of life feature. I look at the pattern around it because Valve just keeps doing this. They keep finding these places where the industry is benefiting from confusion, vague promises, or flat out excuses, and they're building systems around those things to protect us and make those excuses a lot harder to sell. It feels like Valve is trying to rebuild trust in the games industry, at least on their platform. We almost never see the games industry trying to standardize around anything in a positive direction. Instead, it's always been about pricing or mass producing games, subscription services, always normalizing things against us rather than for us because, well, they make a hell of a lot more money doing the opposite. And we have definitely never seen these guys try to standardize around a level of quality, well, except for once. We used to have the Nintendo seal of quality. It existed because consumer trust had completely collapsed after the video game crash in 1983. That seal had read, "This seal has your assurance that Nintendo has
Yeah, that's not on the box anymore.
evaluated
well, hold on. Is it though? Is it? It shouldn't be, but is it?
And approve the quality of this product. The point was pretty simple. If the game had that seal, it was supposed to function properly on Nintendo hardware. It told customers this game works. But over time, we lost that. It changed. It went from the seal of quality to eventually becoming the official Nintendo seal because promising quality became a liability to them, which honestly feels like a pretty good summary of where the industry went. I mean, today launching broken, unfinished, unsupported slop is basically
Would
normal.
be great if Steam had that step, the seal. Just, we approve. We approve. This works. They're not lying. This is great. That would be fucking amazing.
At this point, players don't even expect most of
This
these
is
games to even
optimized.
work. Hell, we celebrate when they actually do, and that's just insane. There is almost no other industry in the world where this would be treated as normal. Imagine buying a movie and just accepting that it might not play, or a book where halfway through you find out that half the pages are missing, and
all the effects aren't done yet in a movie. Holy shit! It's like you can't really compare it in that sense. But again, you sort of can, because you can buy a movie for, well, a new movie here costs about $20, and you know it works. And then you buy a game, you know, for $40. Yeah, you expect it to work. Not every $40 game works, but then the more you pay, the worse it runs. Like, what the fuck?
the publisher is just like, don't worry, we'll patch them in later, but still charge you full price. What are we doing here? That would be absurd anywhere else. And
It's
at some
so
point,
true.
that has to stop. This industry clearly isn't going to do it for itself because that broken standard that they've been pushing is benefiting them the most. They're making more money, they're saving more money, and they're never going to be motivated to do it. But it seems like Valve is stepping in to be the one to change things. Now, I have to give a shout out to Water CS2 for inspiring this theory, a fantastic everything Valve-related content creator, because he's been talking about how Steam is slowly but surely becoming a more console-like experience gearing towards the release of the Steam machine, making Steam easier to navigate, more all-inclusive, and a little bit more predictable. And I think this guy's right. I think that that's exactly what they're trying to do right now, but I also think that that's only one small piece of what Valve is building towards. Because right now, we're at a time where trust is at an all-time low in the games industry. It's basically on the floor. And I think
Say that again.
Valve is trying to leverage trust as their brand moving forward. The Steam machine and the Steam Deck are not just devices. These are hardware pieces in a much larger strategy that Valve is trying to use to create some type of standard around the Steam platform. I think that these guys are trying to certify the quality of games. And I think that we've already seen the early version of this with the Steam Deck Verified. Technically, you can download just about any game on Steam and go ahead and play it on the Steam Deck. But
have anyone tried Steam Deck? If you could pick, would you buy a Steam Deck or a ROG Ally?
that doesn't necessarily mean that all those games are going to play or even work well. Some games just don't support the controls. Others have text that's too small. Some of them have some weird settings that need to be changed. Some will technically launch but run so poorly that no normal person would ever say that it's playable. So Valve went and they made a simple badge system. They call it the Steam Deck verification. Verified games means that that game works well out of the box. You buy it, install it, and play it. No tinkering, no guessing. You know exactly what you're getting. Playable games, that's another badge. That just means that it requires a little bit more effort. Maybe you have to change some settings, or you have to maybe make your own custom controls, but it's not what they would necessarily consider a stable experience. Unsupported means Valve does not recommend that game, or it just flat out does not work on the device. And then unknown means that it's still in the reviewing process. The important part is, Valve is not just letting these developers slap a badge on the game and put it on the store page. No, Valve is reviewing these games themselves. They're giving these developers detailed feedback on what actually needs to be fixed, and then those developers can go and resubmit for approval. So again, Valve is now taking something that used to be messy and uncertain for the customer, and they're turning it into a standard that players can understand instantly, visibly.
That is sweet.
For customers.
Hey, that is the same as fucking the badge of approval from Nintendo way back when. You know, like fucking hell.
This is so incredibly simple. You go to the store page, and right there on the game's cover, there is a badge telling you if that game works on...
Oh, none of them? No, you talking about just buy a PC instead? Or just a console?
On the Steam Deck or not. Something that is just entirely unheard of and under-discussed in the games industry. You do not have to actually dig through any forums. You don't got to search Reddit threads. You don't have to watch videos. You don't have to wonder whether or not you're going to spend money on something that is going to technically launch, but they need like 15 settings changes and a blood sacrifice to be able to work properly. You know what you're getting into before you even hit buy. Now, to the best of my knowledge, that kind of visible platform-level compatibility system has never existed anywhere else in the industry. Not with this much reach, and definitely not directly attached to the same place that you're making the purchase. That matters here because, well, that badge is absolutely going to decide whether or not somebody's going to buy a game or skip it.
Oh, hell yeah.
While most of this right now has just been limited to the Steam Deck, Valve is now building the exact same version of that same idea for the Steam machine. They've already told developers that there is going to be a Steam machine verified. But
I mean, isn't the Steam machine almost the same price as the PS5 Pro? Is it like $900? 700 to 900, which is crazy.
if their game is Steam Deck verified, well, then it's going to be pre-approved for the Steam Deck verification because the Steam machine is more powerful hardware. But the implications of that go even further because if a game is already verified on the Steam machine, and
I mean, instead of the Steam machine, a fucking GameCube. Nintendo would be mad though.
PC is more powerful than the Steam machine, then I can look at that badge and I can have a pretty good idea if I'm going to have any issues running that game. That gives the Steam machine value beyond the people who even go out and buy one. It now becomes a reference point for everybody else. I think this is where this all comes together because Valve is already standardizing a base level of quality on their own hardware and on their own platform. There is a badge right there. There is a green check mark telling me if this is going to work depending on what piece of hardware of theirs that I'm using. Go ahead and add in the FPS estimates that are based on real user data. And now suddenly Steam is starting to remove doubt from the customer's mind before anybody ever even makes a purchase. This is great for players, but this is also just utterly brilliant business. As a former salesman myself, I have to respect this because doubt is one of the biggest things that stops people from buying anything. Qualifying is the first step and the biggest step of the sales cycle. And it is a huge point of friction for a lot of people on PC. Will it run? Will it stutter? Will the recommended hardware settings lie to me? Am I going to spend the first hour of this game fixing the settings instead of actually playing it? Is it going to get worse the more that I play it? Valve is trying to answer those questions before you even ask them.
Hey, Crisis 1. When you started up the game for the first time, or you had to take a look at the settings, it wouldn't run at max. You try like, fuck it, okay, let's take that on medium, take that on medium, still didn't run. Okay, then you turn that off, okay, still wouldn't run, and then you had to, fuck it, I don't know how long I did that, but I also want to have the highest graphics possible, so I tried to turn that down and that up. Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, let's try this and that, just to have it at smooth FPS, but also like, fuck, the highest graphics. Crysis was... Well, it wasn't a mess when it came out, but it didn't run on anything available until fucking 6 years later.
It's going to build.
But it was an amazing game, amazing experience. Fuck, I mean, I still want a Crysis 4.
Trust, it's going to protect customers. It's probably going to sell a hell of a lot more games because people are going to feel safer buying them. And I think that's the part of Valve's strategy that a lot of these companies probably aren't going to understand. Doing right by the customer is not a charity, it's good business. And Valve is now going to force the rest of the industry to do good business just as a byproduct. Developers are going to know exactly what the baseline is. They're going to know that this is Valve's hardware and this is what these guys are measuring around. They're going to know that if their game runs poorly on the Steam Deck, on the Steam machine, or on Steam's FPS estimates, well, that information is going to be visible right where customers are making the decision to buy. So even if Valve never forces...
The game just sitting back. Yeah, just sitting back. Okay, just... Fuck it. I have a great idea. Fix it. Hey, implement it. Sitting in his chair and fucking... I don't know where it was. What a great job. Great position, huh?
A single performance target, the pressure is still there. Optimize for the standard, or just let every customer see that you didn't. You know, I tend to be a guy with a hell of a lot of theories, but I never say that I'm 100% confident in them. This one, I'm 100% confident in. The reason why is because this would be so effective, so unbelievably effective, and it's such a brilliant strategy, especially given today's market conditions within the games industry, because trust is at an all-time low. So if you're selling trust, you're going to be making a hell of a lot of money. Now, say whatever you will about Steam. These guys very rarely make the wrong decision when it comes to stuff like this.
True.
This is the direction that they're going in.
I still think like 30% cut, yeah, it can be a lot. But fuck, you get a lot in return. You do. You don't have to do much. You don't have to, of course, you have to promote a little bit. But you don't have like to have just your own store, your own like check out, all that thing. Damn. Costs a lot of money. Just for them to handle sales, put you on the front page, just promote it. Like, what? You don't have to do anything. Like, you have to do something, but they handle a lot of things for you. A lot. Fuck, server space. You don't have to upload your game to anything. If you make like 10 games and they're 48 gigs each, and then you have to rent a server to hold them up for years to come. I mean, W Steam for that.
It's going to flip the games industry on its head instantly. A badge on every single game saying whether or not it actually works on a piece of hardware outside of just a handheld, being on something that is also effectively not only a console but also a PC. That's a big change, guys. That's a real big change. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, to add more confidence to this, ever since they announced the Steam Machine, they have always been trying to temper people's expectations. It's never been about this being the most powerful piece of gaming hardware. It's not about it being next gen or breakthrough.
And that's the thing. That's why I think, okay, and then you come with, okay, it's probably going to cost $700 to $900. And then they say, no, it's not going to be the most lucrative console. It won't be the best console and all that shit. It's just, okay, so why the fuck do I want to pay $900 for it?
Or anything like that. It's about it being well made, well maintained, and reliable. And now you're going to add on top of that you're going to have access to a storefront that has full transparency that tells you whether or not games do or do not work for that piece of hardware. That's a pretty good position to be able to put yourself in. You're creating a lot of market separation from you and the rest of your competition because you say whether or not your games work or not. You have a badge proving it. Nobody else does. You can't find that anywhere else. That's how you drive people to buy something. That's something I can't find anywhere else. I want that thing. Now, the funny thing is, you don't even have to want the Steam Machine. You don't even have to like the Steam Machine. You would want the Steam Machine to be a thing. You want it to exist because, well, just by it existing, it's creating a baseline level of quality for players on PC. You can instantly look and go, hey, you know what? This game doesn't work on the Steam Machine. It's probably not going to work on my PC. I'll pass on it. If I'm using a 4080, 4090, or a 50 series card, but it's not working on a Steam Machine, it's definitely not going to be working for me, right? That's how that ends up working. So it's such a really interesting development to see. It's not something that I expected. I'll tell you that for sure. But these publishers are going to have a real big problem on their hands. They're not going to like this. This is a level of transparency that these guys are not going to be comfortable with because they have been selling broken games for years. They have been profiting off of broken games for years.
Bethesda! He's talking about you. Gearbox! He's talking about you. Just to name a few.
And these guys cannot afford to not have their games on Steam. So they're just not going to be able to avoid any of this. And essentially, they're going to have to be completely transparent with whether or not their game works or whether it doesn't, whether it was actually optimized or it wasn't.
I hope so.
The age of quality is on the horizon, my friends. It's great. I'm so excited for this. I can't wait to see this come out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you guys comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about all of this. Do you guys think that I'm looking in the right direction? Are you excited for these new changes coming to Steam? Especially,
maybe he's maybe a little too excited for the change, but I hope the change will be big down the line, that developers will really see that, okay, we should optimize our games.
The Steam Machine verified is just going to be utterly brutal for so many of these companies. It's going to be so...
Oh, that it will. That it will.
Anyway, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter, follow me on anywhere else I am. I don't know. Follow me on the streets. Don't do that, actually. Anyway, merch down below. Make sure you guys check it out. I'm putting more stuff in there pretty soon. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Hell yeah. A like on that shit. Subscribe to the dude. Almost every time. Good points. But damn, on this one, maybe a little too excited for the feature. I think it could do great, but I think it will take time. But I hope if it comes out this year, that in 2 years' time, developers think, okay, you know what? We should optimize our games. because that is one of the biggest issues today. That is poorly optimized games. They release too quickly, and then they fix their games after 1 to 2 years. Maybe not 2 years, but 1 year. And they still sell it for full price. Not good. Not good at all. They should do something there. But also, games are becoming more expensive, which also doesn't help with optimization. It just straight up lies. I don't like it. We should have developers concentrate more on the love for gaming, the love of making games, and less about greediness, money, live service, skins.